Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good morning. You could be anywhere from Zurich to Zaire, unified by one thing, and that is your interest in the supply chain. And we have a wonderful, wonderful guest today, Mr. Martijn Lofvers, from the supply chain movement. We're going to talk all things supply chain mind mapping and the route to success. My name is Joe Bryan. I'm your moderator for today. I'll be moving the slides forward, and in about 40 minutes or so, we have a wonderful opportunity for people to ask any questions that they might feel are pertinent. And Martin will answer those. I'll look to get those to Martijn at around the half an hour, 40-minute mark. Without any further ado, Martijn, I'm going to let you take over, and I thank you very, very much for being here, and a big, big welcome to you today. Thank you very much. I'm going to sit back and I'm going to learn what I need to learn as an MBA student about supply chain. So thank you very much, Martijn, and take it away.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Okay, why are some companies more successful than others? And how can company be successful over time? And what can individual employees contribute to their success? So if you, in the first slide, you see the mountain. So Joe, let me see. Yeah. So you see the mountain, and there's a supply team with plan, source, make, deliver, service, and return, possibly. They want to climb the mountain. They know where to go to and what's the peak of the mountain, and they have their their route for their climb. So that's the best way to climb a mountain. But now we go to the next slide, and you see that's not reality. In reality, you see the way how normal companies address strategy. So in a normal way, the management team have a view on the market developments. So they look around, they read reports, and they see all kind of developments. And based on that, they define and design a company strategy. And derived from this company strategy, they come up with all kind of projects, and basically they throw them down into the company. And the major problem is, they don't have taken it into account that you have a certain existing operations, your supply chains. So there's something missing in this whole way of doing traditionally. So there's no loop to get from the point where you have your operations and related to strategy. So that's the reason why we have designed another way of designing your strategy. So in the next slide, you will see what the closed loop should be, or what's the problem of the traditional way. So if you, we have done a lot of research, and we have also read a lot of reports from McKinsey and some others. And an interesting report from McKinsey from 2011 is that 1 out of 3 companies have a competitive strategy to beat the competitor. So 1 out of 3 have an actual chance to beat them. 2 out of 3 don't have a competitive strategy. But it's getting worse. Only 1 out of 5 companies have linked their company strategy to the supply chain, to the resources, to the portfolio. So 4 out of 5 haven't done that. There's a disconnect. And it's getting even worse. When you look at the companies, only 75% of the employees within successful companies know how the employees contribute to the success. So within not so good companies, up to 60% of the employees don't know how they contribute to the success. So actually, they just go to work, do their thing, go home, and they get their paychecks, but they don't know how they contribute to the success. So basically, there's a huge disconnect what a company is, what the company strategy is, and what the supply chain strategy is connected to that. And in the same report, it also stated that successful companies, they tend to look at the future. They don't look backwards to the last quarter, but they plan ahead and look ahead, and they do scenario planning. And the whole trick of it, the magic is create a clear story about your strategy and connect it to supply chain. And that's the reason why we came up with a methodology called supply chain strategy mind mapping, and that's what we're going to explain in this webinar. So in the next slide, you see the basic framework of the supply chain strategy mind mapping. So first of all, you have some companies. they want to climb mountains, certain mountains, but which one do you want to climb? And you have to choose. And that's the first problem. There are a lot of mountains to climb, there are a lot of opportunities, but which one do you want to climb? And if you have made a choice, and see the next one, you already know which mountain you're gonna climb. Okay, which way are you addressing this mountain? And in the next slide, you will see that yeah, then you get some options. So this is your mountain to climb, and this is your horizon and your goal. But then you get to and some choices. You see different routes, 1, 2, 3, 4. If you see route 1, okay, that's the one you have chosen to execute your strategy. But what will you do if you encounter another team climbing in the same route? Do you join forces? Do you throw them off the mountain? Or you decide to go to route 2? Or, in another way, you take the yellow route that takes more time, but it's safer and you will make it in the end. It's like Zalando is taking the long route to win the e-commerce market in fashion in Europe. And that's a choice. And basically, it's on executing your strategy, and you have to take it into account if you want to cooperate internally, do you collaborate with other parties and other partners in the chain, and what is the competition doing, and what are the circumstances in the market you are playing. So this is how you actually climb a mountain. So getting back to the strategy part, then we come to some other framework. Joe, take the next one. So this is the alternative for the classic way of doing a strategy. So first, in the upper left quadrant, you have the market trends. You start over there, and then you have a diagnosis of what is the impact of the company on a company with these trends. And then you go to the third quadrant. Okay, now you know what are your supply chain challenges, and then you come up with the supply chain solutions. There you have your projects. And if you do it all right, you know, you have to connect it to the market trends. So basically, this is the framework of how to make a closed loop strategy and execution plan. And that's different than just throwing them down to the workforce, and they don't know why they do it and how to do it. And if you see the next slide, and Joe, next. Yeah. So basically, we started with the trends. Okay, what are the trends? And we have read a lot of reports from Accenture, McKinsey, PwC, and some others. And basically, you see the basic trends in the world. And these are the trends the CEO of a lot of companies are worrying about. So first of all, you see, of course, globalization. You get new markets, new competitors, and product life cycles going down. Changing demographics is another major trend. Well, in Western Europe, you see a lot of battle for talent, also in the US. And in the Western world, you see aging customers. And sustainability is also getting more and more important. It has to do with the climate change and environmental damages going up. So, for example, the CEO of Unilever, Paul Polman, has a personal goal to double the size of Unilever, and at the same time half the footprint, the CO2 footprint, carbon footprint, at the same time. And everybody within Unilever knows that. So that's something, for example, the CEO of Unilever is worrying about, the environment. The next one is the digital disruption and the dependency on IT that's going up. Basically, you know, as of last year, each CEO is individually responsible for data leakage. So that should be on the CEO's mind. So digitization is a major issue right now, and everybody is talking about it. And cyber threat is also another element that's going about. Next, the financial volatility. You see the importance of cash management. The banks have their own problems, so companies within the supply chain have to be aware of cash management. And financial risk management is something to be worrying about. And outsourcing and cost cutting is still a major topic, even for the CEOs. And then you get into the area of supply chain management. So cost, fuel, and raw materials go up and down, but in the end, it will all go up. Supply risk is going up, when you have a larger supply chain network globally, the risk that you have some disruptions is getting higher, and partners becoming competitors. That's something to worry about. But where does it all lead to? Well, you have your financial forecasting, so what's your next quarterly earnings, but that's not enough. You have to do scenario planning. So a few years ago, Paul Polman was in an analyst meeting, and he said, if you want to know the next quarterly earnings per share of Unilever, sell my stock today. I'm not going to tell you. What I'm going to tell you is which mountain I'm climbing, what I am facing with my company, and what we're going to do about it, and what are our options. So basically that's scenario planning. So what is scenario planning? If in a nutshell, in the next slide, we'll explain it. You will see, starting from now, Joe, in the next slide. Yeah. You go from today and you go to the future, and you can imagine all kinds of things. Well, if you did it a few years ago and you're going to predict the Brexit, maybe people will say, well, it will never happen. Well, it's happening right now. So basically what you're going to do is, okay, you're going to say in a 5 to 10 years time, you're going to say, okay, what might going to happen? So there are some futurologists saying, in China you might have some disruption because there's a huge split of wealthy Chinese people, and in the rural areas they don't gain so much from this. So what will happen if China would collapse? Or what would happen if Putin decides to invade one of the Baltic countries? These are possible options for the future. And these are scenarios companies are creating for their own purposes. So the basic benefits of scenario planning was shown in the 70s. Shell, the oil company, had all the scenarios already in place for the possible event that Israel would be invaded. And in 1973, the Arabic countries invaded Israel, and Shell knew exactly what to do. And based on that, they were able to become one of the biggest companies in the world. So more successful companies like P&G, Procter & Gamble, Unilever, and Shell are doing scenario planning. And some examples, you can say, what would the future be like if internet would be free all over the world? Or there wouldn't be enough water? Or there wouldn't be enough energy? How would this look like? What kind of scenarios would you get? And a specific example of another scenario was already be worked on is, what would be the case if carbon would be taxed? So carbon taxation will be happening in the next years. It's just a matter of when. So hardly any companies have the scenarios in place for that case that carbon taxation will be happening. But Unilever do have these scenarios already written out. So they know what to do when this will be happening. So they are tracking down around the world how far it will get and when it will be happening, concerning the carbon taxation. And based on that, you create your alternative scenarios, and then you will see, okay, this scenario tends to be happening. Now I know what to do. And based on that, you create your business and supply chain strategy. And the good thing about it is that you are ready for what others might see as unexpected events, but you might be ready for a Brexit or other things which you see happening right now. So in the next slide, you will see, Joe. Yeah, so basically you will cover in the upper left quadrant the market trends, what I've done, and you apply a scenario planning, and based on that you will see how you map out the market trends, demographic, economic, sociological, technological, ecological, and political trends. We can all do that, And next step you will get in the phase of what's the impact on the company. So on the next slide you will see how this impacts your company. So basically you see here a company with all kinds of business functions, supply chain management in the middle, talking to marketing and sales, and in that area you have your sales and operations planning. Maybe finance is involved and you get into integrated business planning. On the lower end you see your goods with the purchasing, production, distribution and service. On the left-hand side, you see R&D and your suppliers, and also you see the supporting roles of human resources and IT, and you have some laws and regulations. So basically, this is your company, and then you have to ask yourself, all these trends you have mapped out for yourself as a company, how do these trends impact your company? So like digitalization is of course impacting IT, but also in finance and supply chain. So you have to map it out to all these business functions. And then you get to know more, okay, what does these trends mean for all of us? But this is a kind of boring picture of how a company looks like. And I have, well, visualized it in a different way. In the next slide, Joe, you will see how you can present a company differently. So basically, this is the soccer field, and you have 11 players in the field. In the front row, in the offensive line, you have marketing, sales, and customer service, talking to the customer directly, scoring goals. And midfielders, you have supply chain in the middle, and you have logistics and operations on the left side, and procurement on the right side. And more on the defensive and supporting areas, you have R&D, you have IT, and finance, and HR. And in goal, you have legal. And basically, you know, you see all these trends happening, digitization, and now it's the question, okay, what does it mean for your game? How are you playing right now? And who is playing the ball to who? And who is scoring goal? Is supply chain giving the ball away to marketing? And then are they playing to sales and scoring goals? Is this how they are playing right now? And what does it mean with all these trends with globalization and digitization? Like, for example, you know, you will all know with Goldratt, with the weakest link, who is your weakest link in your company? So who is the quickest player, but most of all, who's the slowest player? So maybe when your company is going through a transformation in this age of digitization, who would be the slowest player? So who's dragging you down? And maybe it's IT dragging you down, maybe it's HR, or maybe it's supply chain because they are not developed enough. So basically, with this visualization, you see the players and you see the high potentials also sitting on the bench. And with the new age of young, versatile employees, if you're not playing well enough, you could be replaced within an instant, and they might be better than you within half a year. And you have the CEO shouting next to the field, but it has no use with shouting. The only thing he has to do, or she, is to make sure that they are playing the right way, you know, with the right strategy. And you have your shareholders, and you know what Paul Plummer is saying, don't look at the shareholders, just score more goals. So that's the way to make them happy. So this is a way to present your company, and this is also a way to talk to each other. Okay, how are we playing? Do we all know what kind of setup we are playing? So in the next slide, you see we get to the framework again, Joe. So now, people will notice who play soccer. You see different kind of plays, you know, and how many people you have in front of the goal. If you are playing offensive, you put another player in the field called business development, and you will take out someone else. Maybe you have outsourced IT, or maybe you have outsourced HR. And in a normal play, it's, you know, you have 3 people in front of the goal. When you are more defensive, you have only 2 players in front of the goal. And in soccer terms, it's called catenaccio. But the main point is, if you are playing catenaccio, or you are on the defensive, the whole company should know. All the departments should know you will play catenaccio. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. And if you are dug in, you can't spend any money. You know, you have hardly any cash flow, and people should know to survive. All the employees should know to survive. So basically, with a soccer game and the fielding of the players, you could express what kind of play are we playing, and does all the employees know about it. But another thing is, in this day and age, you know, you have 11 players in a soccer team, but maybe your competitors don't play soccer, but they play ice hockey or basketball. They would play with less players, and they play around the ball or the puck way more quickly, and so they're playing a different game. So maybe the Amazons, the Googles, the Ubers, and those are companies not playing soccer but playing ice hockey. So you might be facing a different kind of competition. You are a big company with 11 business functions playing soccer, whereas some small quick company playing the whole different game. And that's something you should be aware of, and that's something the whole company should be aware of. So now we get back to the framework in the next slide. Yeah. So we have done the upper right quadrant. You have to make clear what is the impact on your company with finance, marketing, sales, supply chain, IT, HR, R&D, maybe legal. So you have your laid out your strategic layer of a mind map. So in the next slide, you go to quadrant 3. You get supply chain challenges. Joe? So what are the supply chain challenges? And then again, we have taken a lot of reports and we have summarized it in this Ishikawa diagram. So you have similar kind of trends like the global sales market. You have new markets and it means more customization. You will have longer supply chains because of globalization and outsourcing. You will get new competitors from all over the world, from Brazil, from China, from Australia, from Europe, from US. Everywhere. And you get more trade barriers. That's something we see happening more and more. It's not just walls, it's also trade barriers. But even in the EU, you get more barriers. And based on that, you get new trends like trade lanes that governments in certain companies made arrangement to get the goods quicker around the globe. And sustainability is getting more important, and it means you get reverse chain management is becoming more important. Your carbon footprint has to go down, and you get new kind of ways like cradle to cradle. So you have to reuse your raw materials out of your finished goods. Cost of fuel is going up, and raw materials mainly go up. That means more bulk transport, and that means more inventory everywhere. In the matter of IT, you get more open source software and more dependency of IT. And one thing what we see is RFID cost is going down. You will see it in fashion, even in menswear, and you see in suits. You get in threads already passive RFID, so you can scan a whole retail store in 5 minutes time. So you have more visibility of what's actually in the store available. And finally, we'll get global supply chain visibility. We have been talking about that a lot of years, but now with the cost of RFID going down and more bandwidth and with the internet, we'll get global visibility. Financial volatility is also very much on the agenda of the Chief Supply Chain Officer. Tax and customs impact is going up. So there's a lot of cost to be saved by, I would say, tax evasion, but well, look to the supply chain network in a smart way to minimize your taxation. Supply chain risk management is going up. So because a lot of companies have outsourced their supply chain, their manufacturing, and you see a tier 1, 2, 3, 4 and up. That means that somewhere in your network there will be a huge chance that your supply chain will be hit by natural disasters and other things. That's something to worry about. So you have to have some buffers in time or in inventory of some other sense, or maybe capacity. And another way is the supply chain finance is popping up because of this risk. You want to hedge it to make sure that your strategic suppliers can supply your stuff. So, and finally, you get in the outsourcing and the offshoring world. There's still a lot of outsourcing and offshoring going on. So that means logistics and contract manufacturing is still going up. That means a lot of dependency on suppliers. It also means a lot of chain competition, and it also means more frequent network redesign. So 10 years ago, the bigger multinationals would do an actual supply chain network design every 5 years, closing up warehouses and factories or open up. But now, because the world is changing so rapidly, you have to do it every half a year to check it. So now they are changing their network every 3 years. That means every half year you have to check if your network is still optimal. So you will see that bigger companies don't hire consultants for that reason. They do it themselves, or they have a contract to let them do it every month by just click on the buttons. Okay, give me the end result. I am still in the clear, or is there an opportunity to save a lot of money? So and then final thing is that you see some insourcing and onshoring. So a lot of companies have outsourced to the Far East, Western companies. Now you will see that China is too far away from Europe, and now they are reshoring to Turkey to be closer to the end market. And what does it all mean? Well, 10 to 15 years ago, it was all about operational logistics, the lowest cost, please. But now you have to have a supply chain strategy, because one supply chain doesn't fit all. That means you have to differentiate. So to explain in the next slide, and now we get in real deep supply chain matters. You have some supply chain strategies you have to use. So for example, Zara, they have the customer value proposition of high fashion. That means their supply chain strategy is speed to market. So 10 years ago, Madonna gave a concert in Spain, and the trend watchers of Zara were in the audience, and just direct afterwards, they were able to have a new line of clothing within 3 weeks in the stores. So when Madonna came back a few months later to give an extra concert, a lot of girls were dressed like Madonna. And Zara was only able to do that because they are manufacturing these clothes in Morocco, Portugal, and Spain. And for example, H&M is producing mainly in Bangladesh and in the Far East countries. And they were not able, or they are not able, to respond that quickly like Zara is able to. And through that, Zara is way more financially successful than H&M. Direct is another thing. That's the customer experience. So you have you can configure your own laptop or PC. In the 90s, they were very successful. And in this millennium, they were less successful when the consumers wanted to have their PCs directly. They want to go to Walmart, and I want to buy a PC, and I want to play or to do my stuff on the PC this evening. And HP was far more equipped for that, so they had a basic PC manufactured, whereas Dell was still doing the configuration. So for the configuration, Dell is still successful, but for the home market, you see different players right now. Apple is all about product innovation, so they have outsourced manufacturing and logistics totally, but they are still owner of the planning. So basically, the success of Apple is based on sales and operations planning. A lot of planning based on the hour, and if you go into that, that's the main success of their supply chain strategy. Walmart, everyday low prices. That's all about cost efficiency. That's your lowest logistic cost. And Amazon is about available product selection, and that's all about efficient and reliable fulfillment. So that's what we call a supply chain strategy. And in the next slide, you will see it more clearly. Joe, next. Then you have, all set out. Your planning, your sourcing, your making, delivery, service, and return. In this area, you map out all your challenges. Okay, and the next, Joe. Next slide. Yeah, well, this is an interesting slide. We created a strategy compass. So in the middle, you will see the customer need, and then you see the buying behavior, and then you get to the company strategy. Then you have to decide which direction you want to go. Do you want to go north in a direction of product leadership, or do you want to go to the operational excellence that's in the southwest area, or you want the customer intimacy, the southeast area? And so basically, you see a lot of logos of companies where they have their DNA in certain areas. So basically, based on the customer need and buyer behavior, you have to choose which direction you want to go. So if you go north, that's the product leadership. That's the root of Apple, product leader. And the red one is customer intimacy. That's Cisco. That's all about configuration. And then the yellow one, that's all about operational excellence. That's Walmart in that area. So basically, you see, you get the company strategy and you get a connection with the supply chain. And you see 6 supply chains designed, and you see some of their, like in the yellow one, is more heavily oriented in logistics and procurement, and some is more about the manufacturing. And the purple one, you see the left side, you see that's very marketing oriented, and the right side is very R&D oriented. And on the red one, you have one is very sales oriented, actually listening to the customer what they want. And the lower red one is about service orientation. So you see different supply chains. And one supply chain doesn't fit all. So basically, you have to look for different categories and match these categories with different supply chains. So this is the picture of one supply chain doesn't fit all. So you have to have different supply chain setups per category, basically. And so if you look at these companies like PepsiCo, they have mainly a product leadership, but some categories are a bit in the end of life cycle, and they have to move it from product leadership into operational excellence, lower cost, lean logistics, even lean marketing. And lean marketing is something new. That means, don't create new campaigns. Keep it lean, keep it smooth, and don't spend any costs. So basically, you need KPIs for each individual supply chain. So it's not, okay, logistics about lowest cost and marketing is all about R&D and innovation. No. Everybody should be aware of what is the category and what is the supply chain matching to that. So you see these 6 circles, 6 supply chain types, and you have to choose per category which supply chain is it. And the biggest mistake I see, overall, they use the same KPIs. But when you are in product leadership, the main KPI is your net revenue per product, so your margin per product. Whereas in operational excellence, the overall KPI should be what is the end-to-end cost per stock keeping unit. And when you go to customer intimacy, the share of wallet is the most important thing per customer. So what is your lifetime profitability per customer? That's something you should know. That's your end KPI. So you see a lot of mismatches between your strategy, your supply chains, and your KPIs. So it should be that all of your business functions, all your players in the soccer field should know what should be the overall KPI for this individual category, product group. So join the next slide. You see some examples. Disney, well, they produce movie DVDs, and that's a bit of a end of life cycle. So that's operational excellence. And Infinity, with the small puppets with the RFID chips, that was about product leadership, long lead times, long development, rapid deployment. And now, basically, because they didn't succeed in this area, they are killing this category. Starbucks, another example. Fresh coffee, you will get your fresh coffee configured right away with your name on it. But now you see iced coffee, and that's more about operational excellence. It's continuous flow. And what I said, PepsiCo, Quaker Oats, new, healthy, early in the product life cycle. That's about product leadership, fast, continuous portfolio renewal. But Lay's chips, not so healthy, end of life cycle. It's commoditized. There you should apply operational excellence, efficient and lowest cost. So you have your strategy, and basically you should apply a supply chain strategy per category. So next, Joe. So now we come to the end quadrant. You have different options to improve your supply chain. What are the solutions you can apply? And basically, these are the steps, and maybe people recognize the 5 levels of Gartner. First, you can integrate internally to sales and operation planning. Make sure that every player in the field knows what kind of play we are playing and how the market is responding to that and how suppliers respond to that. Then you should automate internally, so get rid of your paperwork, so make sure that you can play more quickly. So that's the baseline. And then you get align externally, look at your portfolio, what are your A customers and what are your A products, or do this, so you do ABC analysis based on customers, and in the same time you do it on product level, so you know where to rationalize your portfolio. And you could collaborate. You could do it upstream with your suppliers, or you could do it downstream with your customers. So then you will be on the Gartner level 3 or 4, and you can do an end-to-end orchestration of your whole supply chain, from your raw materials up to your end consumers. So that's where Unilever is now. So they are talking to the farmers in Indonesia to get soybeans, and they talk to the end consumers or the retailers, and then you get actually end-to-end supply chain. And another thing you could do, and that's beyond level 5, what Gartner is expressing, you could do something new. You could disrupt, innovate, be the Uber of your own industry, or do some 3D printing, that kind of stuff. So basically now you have the whole framework of strategy, impact, and challenges and solutions, and now we have a total overview. So now we get the whole mind map, Joe. Next. How does it look like? So this is a mind map we have created with the IMD Business School with Carlos Cardon, the professor of supply chain. And you can download it on our website of supplychainmovement.com. And basically you see, when you download it, in the upper left corner, you see all the trends in the digital age. You see how these trends are impacting the company, the business functions. And in quadrant number 3, you see all the challenges related to these trends. And in the lower left quadrant, you will see the solutions where you can look for. And there you see, well, all the kind of things like 3D printing, RFID, like Uber. It's all over there. So basically, with this mind map, you have a total overview of the digital supply chain 4.0. And in the same way, I've created with companies like PepsiCo, Johnson & Johnson, Office Depot, a similar mind map. And you can map out the trends of your market. And you can do it with your management team, or you can do it with your supply chain leadership team. And basically, you create a view of your market. And basically, you can visualize what's happening in your market, but also you can express in the lower left quadrant what are the projects. And if you do it right, you can do the prioritization in that area. So you can decide what is project number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you connect a KPI per project to it, and then everybody will know why they are doing it, how important is it, and they can relate it all the way back of the challenges, the impact, and the trend. And if you do it in the right way, you will be a trend maker. So Amazon is going through this cycle on and on and on. So a few years ago, they had some challenges that they couldn't get more volume because some competitors are doing similar things. So what they did, you know, they invited competitors to do business on their platform, and then they would get more volume, and so that's where they became a trend maker. All right, and then next, Joe. So basically, summing up this, you have the market trends, you have the impact on the company, you have your process challenges and operational strategy, and then you have your strategy and execution and contingencies. And people who know Simon Sinek, they see the why and how and the what. And Simon Sinek is talking about golden circles, and you have to look at YouTube Golden Circles, one of the best TEDx movies around, 80 minutes. And he's explaining why Apple is so successful, starting with why, and then how, and then what. Not starting with what, but starting with why. One question he didn't address in it, why, how, what, is where to compete. And that's, for example, you have an iPhone 7, and you could wonder, will there ever be an iPhone 20 in 10 years time or so? Maybe not. Probably not. Will it be an iPhone 15? Maybe. But where is the disconnect between the 15 and the 20? There will be a moment in time that Apple will decide to go out of the iPhone market, or maybe it will be a marginal market. They go to other things. So that's the matter of where to compete. All right, Joe, next. That's the final one. Okay, you have your project. You are climbing the mountain. And what mountaineers are doing, they will think of all the possibilities what can go wrong. And when you start at the bottom and you go up, you'll see on the left side what can happen climbing a mountain. No plan, bad equipment, no map, no compass, rain, hail, lightning, forest fire, being tired, dehydration, being lost, starvation, falling, snowstorm, landslide, frostbite, and an avalanche. And on the right side, I have tried to do a similar way of thinking. What can go wrong in a project? No strategy plan, no organization, no roadmap, no direction, and so forth and so on. Basically, what I'm saying, you see people plan a lot of projects, and especially when they are strategic projects, but they hardly do this kind of exercise. What can go wrong? Just imagine all the things that can go wrong. And in the military environment and with mountaineers, they are doing this. And the main thing is, if you are trying to sum up all the things that can go wrong, you are better prepared. If these things might happen, you are prepared. But a lot of companies, a lot of projects, because they haven't done that. They are, they will be hit by an avalanche. So, basically is, if you know where to climb and you take your route, this is the last phase in the execution. Be prepared and make sure that you have all things that might go wrong have summed up, so you are prepared when these things are actually happening. All right, Joe. So this is it. You know how to create a mind map and to visualize it, and in the end, you make sure that you are prepared for what can happen in a bad way. Okay, thanks.
Well, super. Thank you very much, Martijn. We have some questions that have come in as well. From my side, as someone who's studying on an MBA and isn't a supply chain expert, the use of narrative and metaphor really allowed me to understand a field that I really have found it very difficult to get to grips with and fitting it in terms of how it fits into business. So thank you very much for that. So we have a bit of time here to take a few questions before we finish the session today. So let's have a look at some of those questions. I mean, I particularly loved the rethinking of the org chart, Martin, and seeing who's scoring goals and who's not. So let's have a look at some of these questions. One of the questions is, what would be the first step to link your strategy to your product portfolio?
So what I did within PepsiCo, you can list down all kind of order qualifiers and order winners, like quality, price, flexibility, volume flexibility, product flexibility. And what we did, we had an exercise. Just take two categories, like Quaker Oats and Lay's, and you only can pick two order winners. And what we saw is, like, obviously Lay's chips end of life cycle cost is an order winner, whereas Lay's chips quality is an order winner. So by definition, that means that cost is an order winner. Your supply chain should be in operational excellence. Whereas if your order winner would be quality, that means for that category your strategy should be product leadership. So based on that kind of framework, you can choose which of the 6 supply chain types should apply to your individual categories and your whole portfolio.
Okay, we have a question that relates to that because that was a very interesting part that you kind of explained that it's really horses for courses in terms of your supply chain fitting your value proposition. A question here: do you feel that many supply chains that are failing are due to companies not understanding their value proposition?
Yes, absolutely. And maybe there's an internal disconnect between your supply chain and your commercial challenge, because commercial people say, okay, they want availability, but they are not aware of the cost of it. So you should ask your salespeople, do you want it quick or do you want it cheap? So there's a lot of disconnect within companies between, well, the players, the commercial players and supply chain players.
Indeed.
So that's the first start. And not choosing at all is also a lot of causing a lot of problems. So if you want, you have your customers, and the buying behaviors, or you don't know your customers, or you don't know the buying behaviors, or you don't connect them to a supply chain strategy.
So interesting about strategy here. A question about Zalando. You referred to Zalando as taking the wrong route. What would you mean by that?
Well, they have deep pockets, so e-commerce is quite expensive. And
Yes.
like, for example, they said that they have lowered their logistic costs from 30% to 23%. So that's amazing. If you have an e-commerce company, you have the 35% logistics, and you succeeded to lower it to 23%. It will take years, but then now they get the actual volume to lower that logistic cost, and now they are in the black. So for a lot of years they were in the red, but now finally when they see it's happening that they can lower their logistic costs drastically, now they're in black figures, and that takes some time. But you have to have deep pockets for that.
So there is a kind of trade-off, a decision that has to be made between short-term and long-term goals. As we all know within companies, the pressure from the board can always be there, and certainly it seems, based on what you're saying, that people need to look at their value proposition, all this, before they rush into supply chain just to get a product to market or a product to their customer. You touched upon the green supply chain there, looking at Unilever doubling the size of their business but halving their footprint, which immediately made me think, oh, is that technically possible? A question here, with the Paris Accord coming in jeopardy and the New World Order, is the green supply chain under threat?
Yes and no. Yes, from a government perspective, but the consumers demanding it. So the younger generation demands from companies to know where the products are coming from, what would be the carbon footprint. So I think it's more up to the companies like the Unilevers, the Procter & Gamble, the Shells of this world to live up of the promise of sustainability, and not so much the government. So I think it should be coming from the government. So and they need to, because the consumer will demand for it in the next 5 to 10, 20 years.
Of course. Now, in terms of consumer marketing, is an area that lots of our students, prospective students, are involved in marketing. Do you see marketing opportunities around the supply chain? By that I mean looking at what Patagonia have done, for instance, in having their supply chain footprint diaries and showing everyone that. Are there marketing opportunities for companies with their supply chain at the front and center?
Well, the first thing is supply chain in itself should do some more marketing, so to make it more important. So
Yes.
you have commercial and supply chain. So supply chain is delivering on a commercial promise, but so that's on one hand. Can you use it for marketing purposes? Yes and no. Like, for example, you will see like Nike. They make their whole footprint available.
Exactly.
To see where it's all coming from. And in the end, yes. So supply chain visibility will be becoming more important. So you have a website where you can see where all the Nike stuff has been produced.
Amazing.
But I don't know if that has so much effect, but maybe in the end, yes, people will know where it has been produced and maybe how much CO2 is being involved. It will be, yeah, a part.
I mean, lastly, what I wanted to round up with today is what you talked about in terms of speed to market and picking different solutions. Typically, a lot, we're used to now manufactured in China or manufactured in India in these big hubs with massive labor forces. And earlier you touched upon, Martijn, Zara, 3 weeks turnover into the stores. You see something, that celebrity goes on a concert and then they copy the designs, they go to the plant, they manufacture it, and they're out in the shops within 3 weeks. And what you touched upon there is that they made their clothes in Morocco and Spain, and they didn't make their clothes in Bangladesh and China, for instance. Would you say then that it's kind of a myth that the cheapest way to get your supply chain, the cheapest way to go with your manufacturing is the best way in terms of your supply chain?
That's an absolute myth, because you have working capital, and if cash is king, if all your stuff is on the boat and the boat is on the wrong direction, and even worse, your containers don't get up with the engine, so that's awful. You see a lot of companies were hit by it with the engine container being stuck on the water. So it takes weeks on the water, and that's all working capital stuck in there. And manufacturing in Turkey by Adidas to some extent, it means you can respond more rapidly to the market, but that's only useful for some categories. So some stuff will still be produced in the Far East, but with 3D printing and with robotization, you will see that some manufacturing will get back to the US and back to Europe. And you will see in the periphery, like Mexico, despite the wall, there's more manufacturing in Mexico, automotive. There's in Morocco, in Turkey, there's more nearshoring. So you got closer to the market, you are more responsive. And the farther you are from the end market, the less responsive you are, and you will stuck with your stuff. And maybe it will be out of fashions in the weeks. Yes. Your stuff is on the boat.
Yes, and not to add the complexity of layers of culture and distance and language, sometimes the trade-off actually doesn't lead to a more profitable situation.
No, in the end, the supply chain that will win are basically designed for flow. Higher clock speeds, more flow. And what you can see on a container ship, weeks on the water, that's no flow.
Lovely. Now, the punchline to this is obviously Martijn was working at the supply chain movement as a consultant, helping businesses with their supply chains, working with massive businesses, and obviously there's his website there and details there where you can learn more about what Mr. Lofvers does as well. For us, we have a fantastic program in operation and supply chain where you can actually dig deep and learn all these skills yourself through tangible discussions with people from all over the world in the supply chain industry, studying with you in class and sharing your knowledge. I'd like to thank you very, very much today, Mr. Lofvers, for what has been basically 90% of my understanding of supply chain as it stands has come from this webinar. So thank you very much for your input today. You have your details there if people want to be LinkedIn contacts, they can go hit you up and you can see to accept that. Thank you very much to our prospective audience today. I'd like to ask you one last question to finish with Martijn. For anyone who's very enthusiastic about starting to explore mind mapping, what would you say would be the first move to take?
Well, go to our website and download as many mind maps you can, and then you can start with Free Mind, that's software for free, and just try it, and then explain it to your colleagues, and take it from there. Do it together, and then you have something what you have created together, and that's the best thing to start with.
That's beautiful. And please remember, if you use any work from Martijn's website, to properly cite and reference the work. Now, thank you very much, Martijn. Thank you to our audience today. It's been a University of Roehampton module presentation on supply chain. Thank you very much and have a lovely and productive evening. We will see you all in class. Thank you and good night, Martijn.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.